The sinking of my Navy patrol boat unveiled a $3 million HOA conspiracy. I never imagined I'd want to unravel someone's life until Ellen Harper sank my patrol boat under the cover of night. She thought destroying my cherished Navy relic would silence me and drive me out of Lakeview shores. She couldn't have been more wrong. Instead, that sunken boat became the key to exposing a $3 million HOA fraud she was desperate to hide. Ellen didn't realize that when you cross the wrong person, you awaken a force you can't control. My name is Jack Bennett, a retired Navy investigator, and this is the story of how a suburban neighborhood became a battlefield and how I fought to bring justice to a community betrayed. After my forensic accounting firm collapsed during the tech industry downturn, I sought solace in Lakeview Shores, an upscale lakefront community in Naples, Florida. With the last of my savings from selling company shares, I bought a house at 17 Merino Lane, drawn to its private dock where I could moor my pride and joy, PT 109. This wasn't just any boat. It was a 32-foot Navy patrol vessel, a floating testament to 20 years of service, bought at auction for $15,000. PT 109 carried memories of Caribbean nights, comrades who became brothers, and a younger me who lived for duty and honor. It was more than a vessel, it was my past, my identity, etched in every weathered plank. I'd barely unpacked when the Lakeview Shores HOA delivered a welcome packet that felt more like a legal summons. The 81-page handbook listed 67 prohibited activities, from approved paint colors to parking orientations. A highlighted rule, number 34, caught my eye. Watercraft over 30 feet required prior HOA board approval. PT 109 was 2 feet too long, and I hadn't asked for permission. The bright yellow highlighter suggested someone was already watching, already plotting. I sensed trouble brewing, but my Navy training taught me to stay calm and assess the threat. The community center meeting on a humid Tuesday evening felt like a corporate showdown. Ellen Harper, the HOA president, stood at the podium, her auburn bob flawless, her Navy blazers screaming wealth. Her eyes scanned the room like a hawk, but I noticed subtle tells, dark circles under her makeup, a slight tremor in her hands when she wasn't clutching the podium. She welcomed me, Jack Bennett of Merino Lane, with a smile that felt rehearsed. "I trust you've reviewed our watercraft regulations," she said, her tone polite but edged with steel. When I suggested an exception for a boat purchased before moving in, her smile faltered, and something cold flashed in her eyes. "Rules are rules, Mr. Bennett. The HOA can't set precedents. Property values, you understand?" Her quick correction from "we" to the HOA piqued my interest. In Navy intelligence, verbal slips often betrayed stress. Ellen wasn't just enforcing rules, she was under pressure, and it wasn't about aesthetics. She checked her phone obsessively during our brief talk, glanced at the parking lot as if expecting someone, and stressed avoiding unwanted attention with an odd intensity. When another resident asked about the budget, she deflected so fast it felt like a classified briefing being shut down. This wasn't a power-hungry HOA tyrant. This was someone scared. That night, inspecting PT 109 under the dock's floodlights, I found 3 of 4 anchor bolts deliberately loosened. A storm could have sent her crashing into other boats, causing thousands in damage. A handwritten note on my windshield read, "Some boats belong in museums, not neighborhoods. A concerned neighbor." The feminine script matched the yellow highlighter from the HOA packet. My blood didn't boil, 20 years of discipline kicked in. I photographed the evidence, secured the boat with backup lines, and rated the threat as amateur but escalating. The next morning, an official HOA violation notice arrived, demanding I relocate PT 109 within 72 hours or face $150 daily fines. The letter's timing, prepared before I'd even asked for an exception, told me Ellen had a plan, and it wasn't about rules. It was about getting rid of me. The question wasn't how to move a 15-ton boat in 3 days. It was why Ellen Harper was so desperate to push me out that she'd resort to sabotage. I thought she was just an overzealous HOA president. I had no idea she was fighting for her daughter's life, and mine was about to become collateral damage in a war I didn't know existed. Ellen's tactics escalated beyond petty notices. Within days, new security cameras appeared, angled to monitor my dock. A neighborhood watch group of 23 members sprang up, their patrols suspiciously focused on my property. Volunteer schedules ensured someone passed my house hourly. In the Navy, we called this a surveillance grid. Ellen called it community engagement. The sophistication suggested she wasn't acting alone, and the speed of implementation hinted she'd done this before. Instead of piling on more violation letters, she launched financial warfare. I received bills for an $800 dock safety inspection, only for my property, a $1,200 environmental study, just for me, and a $2,000 marine insurance hike. Guess who it targeted? All were legal per HOA bylaws, with 30-day payment deadlines and threats of liens. This was systematic pressure to force me out. A former board member, Tom Reynolds, reached out via encrypted email, a red flag for the paranoia surrounding HOA communications. We met at a coffee shop 15 miles from Lakeview Shores. Tom described Ellen's transformation from a warm neighbor baking cookies, joining book club Stowe, a ruthless president who purged dissenters. 18 months ago, she was everyone's friend, he said. Then she became president, fired our accounting firm, changed banks without approval, and ousted me when I asked for financial transparency. His timeline suggested someone had gained leverage over Ellen, turning her into a puppet. My investigator's instincts kicked in. Ellen's husband ran a modest plumbing business, earning maybe $85,000 yearly. Her part-time bookkeeping added $25,000. Their $110,000 income couldn't support her BMW lease, $800 per month, her daughter's $28,000 private school, or their $150,000 home renovation. She needed at least $200,000 a year. The math screamed fraud. A 67-year-old retired teacher, Margaret Olson, approached me while I gardened. "Jack, I've lived here 14 years. Families don't just levithery driven out." Her handwritten spreadsheet tracked families forced out since Ellen's rise. The Wilsons faced $8,000 in fines for unapproved landscaping after questioning a contractor's bill. The Patels endured noise violations for their kids' playtime after demanding transparency. The pattern was clear: question the money, get exiled. One night, working near an open window, I overheard Ellen on the phone, her voice trembling. "Tony, he's military, asking questions. I can't just eliminate him. Don't threaten my family." A long pause followed. Then, "Okay, I'll handle it, but if you touch my daughter, we're done." Suddenly, Ellen wasn't the villain, she was a pawn, coerced by someone far more dangerous. Her surveillance, fines, and harassment weren't about control. They were desperate acts to protect her family. I'd seen this in the Navy, people forced into crimes under duress. Ellen was trapped, and I'd just become her biggest threat. The realization that Ellen Harper wasn't just a petty HOA tyrant, but a pawn in a larger scheme shifted my perspective. My Navy training had taught me to read people under pressure, and Ellen's behavior, her trembling hands, her frantic phone glances screamed coercion. But who was pulling her strings, and why was my boat such a threat? PT 109 wasn't just a violation of HOA rules. It was a symbol of my past, and somehow, it had become a lightning rod for Ellen's fear. I needed answers, and I wasn't leaving Lakeview Shores until I had them. Ellen's campaign intensified. The surveillance grid tightened, with neighbors I'd never met suddenly checking in on my property. One morning, a woman in yoga gear lingered by my dock, pretending to stretch while eyeing PT 109. Another time, a man walking his dog paused to take photos of my house. The Neighborhood Watch Group's reports, posted on the HOA's private forum, flagged my unusual activity, like working on my boat at dusk, as potential threats to community safety. Ellen's operation was sophisticated, almost military in its precision, and it confirmed she had help. Financial pressure mounted. A new $1,500 waterfront maintenance fee appeared, applied solely to my property. When I challenged it at the next HOA meeting, Ellen deflected with a polished smile. "It's for the community's benefit, Jack. We're ensuring our lakefront stays pristine." The room nodded along, but I caught Margaret Olson's sharp glance. She wasn't buying it either. Ellen's ability to weaponize bureaucracy was impressive, but it also revealed her desperation. She wasn't just trying to enforce rules, she was trying to break me. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. David Carter, the HOA's accountant, reached out via a cryptic LinkedIn message. "Need to discuss Lakeview finances. Barnes & Noble, Saturday, 3 p.m. Come alone." His paranoia mirrored Tom Reynolds' encrypted email, and I prepared for the worst. At the bookstore, surrounded by finance manuals, David's hands shook as he spilled the truth. "Ellen's got me trapped," he whispered. "She has recordings of me signing blank forms for future approvals. Later, she filled them with payments to fake companies. If anyone digs, I look like the crook, not her." He admitted Ellen had bailed him out of a $40,000 crypto trading debt, then used it as leverage to force his compliance. "How much has she stolen?" I asked. He hesitated, then typed a number on his phone, $700,000. In 18 months, she'd siphoned off more than most families earned in a decade. David's confession was a goldmine, but it came with risks. He agreed to grant me access to HOA financial records under the guise of an external audit. My forensic accounting skills, honed while investigating military fraud, went to work. The records revealed a labyrinth of phantom businesses: Sunshine Landscaping, Aquatic Solutions, Coastal Maintenance, all with vague invoices and non-existent addresses. Money flowed from HOA accounts to these shells, then vanished into real estate purchases managed by Harper Properties, a company registered under Ellen's maiden name. The scheme was elegant: steal HOA funds, launder them through fake companies, and invest in rental properties that generated clean income. In 18 months, Ellen's operation had acquired properties worth $2.8 million. I began tailing Ellen discreetly, blending into Naples' suburban rhythm. Every Tuesday, she drove to Westfield Mall but slipped into an office building housing Russo Builders, a construction firm with no visible projects in Lakeview Shores. She spent exactly 45 minutes there, never mentioned in the HOA minutes. On Fridays, she visited warehouses in Tampa's industrial district, claiming personal errands, but her routes suggested business dealings. Her weekend house hunting trips made no sense for a family not planning to move unless she was scouting investment properties bought with stolen funds. Researching Russo Builders revealed its owner, Tony Russo, a man with a rap sheet that explained Ellen's fear. His company reported $2.3 million annually, suspicious for a contractor serving cash-heavy businesses like diners and laundromats. My private investigator contacts accessed databases showing Russo on federal watch lists for money laundering, with 3 failed prosecutions due to witness intimidation. His lifestyle: a $1.2 million waterfront home, a yacht, a classic car collection far exceeded his legitimate income. Russo was the puppeteer, and Ellen was his reluctant marionette. Late one Friday, I used a long-range listening device from public property near Russo Builders to record a damning conversation. "Ellen, this Bennett guy's trouble," Russo growled. "Former Navy, with financial detective skills. He'll connect the HOA money to our properties." Ellen's voice cracked. "Sinking his boat will keep him busy with insurance claims." Russo's reply was chilling. "Not enough. He won't stop. We need him gone voluntarily, or we'll make him disappear." The threat confirmed I wasn't just fighting Ellen. I was up against organized crime with resources to eliminate threats. Ellen's next move was psychological warfare. Anonymous letters appeared under neighbors' doors, accusing me of erratic behavior since the PT 109's violation notice. HOA emails warned of my unstable mental state, citing delayed veteran trauma as a community safety risk. A fake complaint claimed I'd threatened board members. The campaign was professional, designed to isolate me socially and financially. David forwarded Ellen's master plan. Phase 1, spread rumors of my insurance fraud. Phase 2, fabricate neighbor complaints for HOA enforcement. Phase 3, impose targeted assessments to bankrupt me. Phase 4, sue for noncompliance, forcing me to sell my house. The handwriting on fake complaints matched Ellen's, but as David noted, who's going to demand forensic analysis? The final straw came at 3 a.m. when a new HOA letter slid under my door, warning that PT 109 would be towed by Friday unless removed. My front door camera mysteriously failed between 2:45 and 3:15 a.m. Ellen was escalating to intimidation, operating in the shadows. I thought she was a power-mad HOA president. I didn't realize she was a mother fighting for her daughter's life, and I was the obstacle to her family's survival. Thursday afternoon, Ellen received a call from Tony Russo that pushed her over the edge. "Your Navy neighbor's sniffing around," he said. "Forensic accounting skills see patterns others miss. You've got 36 hours to make him disappear, or we handle it our way." Ellen pleaded, I'll get his boat towed by Friday. Russo's voice turned icy. Eliminate doesn't mean kill, Ellen. Make him want to leave. You've been creative before. Then came the threat that broke her. Your daughter, Lily, 16, dance classes on Gulf Drive, Tuesdays and Thursdays. It'd be a shame if her future was interrupted. Ellen's whispered, "Don't touch her," was met with, "Handle it, or I will." In her BMW, parked in the garage, Ellen watched Lily practice dance moves in the backyard, her hands shaking. The choice was brutal: destroy a stranger's memories or lose her daughter. Towing PT 109 would leave a paper trail, inviting questions. But if it sank due to mechanical failure, insurance would focus on me, not HOA finances. The emotional blow of losing PT 109 might drive me away, neutralizing my threat. It was a desperate plan, born of terror. Friday night, Ellen scouted Sunset Marina, circling 3 times to memorize the layout. By 9 p.m., she was Googling boat sabotage methods, her browser history later recovered by the FBI. At 11 p.m., she drafted a fake insurance report, planning to pose as a jogger reporting engine issues. Her tools were amateur college wetsuit, kitchen knife, rubber gloves, waterproof flashlight but effective. At 2:47 a.m., her Honda Civic idled 150 yards from the marina, avoiding cameras. The marina's security upgrade left the west dock, where PT 109 was moored, in a blind spot. For 15 minutes, she sat, steeling herself for a crime that violated everything she believed. The water was cold as Ellen Harper slipped into the lake from the marina's launch ramp, her wetsuit barely shielding her from the chill. Her waterproof flashlight cast eerie shadows beneath the surface as she swam silently toward PT 109. Every stroke was a betrayal of the values she'd once held dear, but the image of her daughter, Lily, kept her moving. In her mind, Tony Russo's threat echoed, "Handle it, or I will." She wasn't just sinking a boat, she was trying to save her child. But as she reached PT 109, the weight of her actions hit her like a tidal wave. Under the boat's hull, Ellen's hands trembled as she worked. She used the kitchen knife to slice the fuel line, ensuring the damage looked like wear and tear. She loosened the drain plug, letting water seep in slowly to mimic a mechanical failure. Her flashlight caught the memorial plaque on the console, USS Valor, in memory of those who served. For a moment, she froze, realizing she was destroying a monument to 20 years of sacrifice. This wasn't just Jack Bennett's boat, it was a piece of his soul, a tribute to brothers in arms who trusted him with their lives. Tears mixed with lake water, but her phone buzzed with a text from Russo. "How's the swim? I know where you are." The message, sent from someone watching nearby, crushed any hope of backing out. In her haste to finish, Ellen made a critical mistake. Her rubber glove snagged on a sharp edge of the hull, tearing off a small piece that lodged against the waterline. She didn't notice, too focused on escaping before dawn. By 4 a.m., she was back in her car, shivering and sobbing, but the deed was done. At 6:03 a.m., using a burner phone bought with cash, she called the marina, posing as a jogger. "I smelled gasoline near the west dock," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. One of the boats looks off. The call, 44 minutes before staff would have noticed, was her attempt to control the narrative. My phone rang at 6:47 a.m., shattering the morning calm. "Mr. Bennett, it's Sunset Marina. Your boat's sunk. Just the masts above water." Standing on the dock, staring at PT 109 submerged in 15 feet of murky lake, I felt a grief only veterans understand. This wasn't just property, it was my youth, my honor, the nights we patrolled hostile waters, the men who never came home. It was like watching my past drown, a funeral for every mission that shaped me. I stood there, numb, as the marina buzzed with staff and curious neighbors. Ellen arrived at 9:15 a.m., playing the concerned neighbor with Oscar-worthy precision. "Jack, I'm so sorry," she said, offering coffee and a sympathetic frown. "This is just awful." But when she mentioned engine problems, before any diver had inspected the wreck, my instincts flared. How did she know? No details had been released. Her relief that PT 109 wasn't violating regulations anymore slipped out, and she caught herself backtracking with a flustered apology. It was the first crack in her facade, and my Navy training screamed. She knew too much. 3 days later, the salvage team raised PT 109, and the evidence was undeniable. The dive leader surfaced, his face grim. Jack, someone cut the fuel line and loosened the drain plug with tools. This was sabotage. A torn piece of rubber glove, lodged against the hull, sealed it. The marina's insurance investigator called it vandalism, but I saw a calculated operation to silence me, disguised as an accident. Ellen wasn't working alone. This was too precise for a suburban housewife. I doubled down, leveraging my network. Margaret Olson, the retired teacher, became my eyes in the community, sharing rumors and HOA gossip. Tom Reynolds, the ousted board member, connected me with other purged residents who'd questioned Ellen's finances. David Carter, the coerced accountant, fed me more data, though his fear of Russo made him jumpy. My surveillance of Ellen revealed a pattern. Her Tuesday meetings at Russo Builders, her Tampa warehouse visits, her house hunting trips all tied to a money laundering scheme funneling HOA funds into real estate. The breakthrough came when I recorded another Russo-Ellen conversation. "The boat's gone, but Bennett's still digging," Russo said. "We need him out of Lakeview Shores, or he'll unravel everything." Ellen's voice was strained. "I did what you asked. He's distracted now." Russo laughed. "Distracted? A guy like him lives for this. Make him leave, or we'll motivate permanently." The threat was clear. My life was on the line. Ellen's response, a shaky, "I'll figure it out," confirmed she was trapped, but it didn't absolve her. She'd chosen to sink my boat, and I wasn't backing down. Ellen's next move was a smear campaign. Fake complaints flooded the HOA, alleging I'd harassed neighbors and planned to defraud insurance by sinking PT 109. An email blast to residents painted me as an unstable veteran, a risk to community safety. The accusations stung, but they also galvanized me. I wasn't just fighting for myself, it was fighting for every neighbor bled dry by Ellen's scheme. Margaret handed me a list of 8 residents who'd been harassed for questioning finances. We met secretly at her house, a council of the wronged. Maria Lopez, a single mom, shared fines for her kids' noise violations. Robert Chong, an engineer, had tracked fake contractor bills. Lisa Nguyen, a nurse, had recorded Ellen's threatening calls. Carl Evans, a fellow veteran, nearly lost his home to bogus liens. We crafted a plan. Confront Ellen at the next HOA meeting, force her to slip up, and expose her crimes publicly. The night before the meeting, I contacted Special Agent Laura Thompson of the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. We met at a truck stop off I-75, far from Russo's reach. "Jack, we've been watching Russo for months," she said. "Your evidence financial trails, recordings gives us the HOA angle we lacked." She asked me to keep the meeting on track. "Our agents will be there, posing as residents. If Ellen or her allies incriminate themselves, we'll move." The stakes were clear. This wasn't just about Lakeview Shores. It was about dismantling a criminal network. Ellen prepared for the meeting like a general, unaware of the trap. Phone taps revealed her plotting with Russo. "If Bennett shows evidence, the FBI could get search warrants," Russo warned. "He has an accident, car trouble, a fall, anything to keep him quiet." Ellen refused violence, opting for Plan B. Discredit me with fake proof of my instability. She forged photos of me near PT 109 the night it sank, fabricated emails suggesting insurance fraud, and lined up witnesses claiming I'd threatened the board. It was a desperate gambit, but she underestimated the community's anger and my resolve. The Lakeview Shores Community Center was packed, 127 residents crammed into a room meant for 80. The air crackled with tension as neighbors sensed a reckoning. Ellen opened with her smear campaign, presenting her doctored evidence. "Mr. Bennett's behavior has been concerning," she said, projecting photos and reading fake complaints. "We're addressing his violations to protect our community." Her confidence was a mask, but I saw her hands shake as she gripped the podium. I stood, locking eyes with her. "Thank you, Ellen, for bringing up evidence. I have some of the community that deserves to see." The room fell silent. "Can you explain why we paid Sunshine Landscaping $12,000 for work that never happened? Or why Aquatic Solutions' address is a Starbucks parking lot?" Ellen's face drained of color. Before she could respond, Margaret stood, holding her spreadsheet. "My husband was a CPA. I've tracked your fraud for months, Ellen. You've been stealing from us. Tom Reynolds added. I was ousted for asking for audits. Now I know why you were hiding millions. The crowd erupted, voices demanding answers, phones recording the chaos. Ellen tried to dismiss my evidence as fake, but I played the recording. Her voice filled the room. I handled the boat like you requested. Russo's followed. The operation smooth, cleaning money through properties. The evidence was undeniable. Ellen's facade crumbled as she realized the trap. The Lakeview Shores Community Center was a powder keg, and my recorded evidence had lit the fuse. Ellen Harper stood at the podium, her polished exterior shattered as the voices of her neighbors' 127 residents packed into a room meant for 80 rows in a cacophony of outrage. The audio of her admitting to sinking PT 109, coupled with Tony Russo's casual discussion of laundering HOA funds through real estate, echoed through the room like a death knell. Phones glowed as residents recorded, texted, and called loved ones, spreading the news of betrayal in real time. I watched Ellen's face, pale as moonlight, her hands gripping the podium to keep from collapsing. She knew it was over, but what came next would change Lakeview Shores forever. Ellen's attempt to deflect was feeble. These are fabrications, she stammered, designed to distract from Mr. Bennett's insurance fraud. But the crowd wasn't buying it. Maria Lopez stood, waving a stack of fine notices. You charged me $2,000 for my kids playing outside because I asked about a budget discrepancy. Robert Chong held up his evidence, a spreadsheet of fake contractor payments. I traced your invoices, Ellen. They're lies. Lisa Nguyen played a recorded call where Ellen threatened her over a garden violation. The room was a chorus of accusations, each resident a piece of the puzzle I'd assembled. Then came the moment that turned Ellen from villain to victim in the eyes of many. Her voice broke, tears streaming down her face. You don't understand, she sobbed. Tony Russo threatened my daughter, Lily. He knew her school, her dance classes, and her walk home. I didn't want to steal from you. I had no choice. He held my child's life over me. The confession poured out, 18 months of terror and guilt. I thought if I paid off my gambling debts, it would end. I never meant for it to go this far. Her breakdown was raw, a mother's desperation laid bare. Some residents softened, their anger mingling with pity, but others shouted for justice. The room was a battleground of emotions: betrayal, sympathy, and rage. Before the crowd could process her words, Special Agent Laura Thompson's voice cut through the chaos. FBI, nobody move. 6 undercover agents, posing as residents, flashed badges and drew weapons, securing the exits. Ellen Harper, you're under arrest for money laundering, embezzlement, and vandalism, Laura announced. Tony Russo and his associates are being arrested simultaneously across Tampa Bay. Handcuffs clicked around Ellen's wrists, her sobs muffled as agents led her away. The sight of their HOA president in custody, federal agents swarming their community center, stunned Lakeview Shores into silence. This wasn't just a neighborhood scandal, it was the epicenter of a criminal conspiracy that had stolen millions. As Ellen was escorted out, she turned to the crowd, her voice trembling. I'm sorry for what I did, but Russo's network is bigger than Lakeview Shores. Other HOAs, other families are being threatened. Don't let my mistakes be for nothing. Make the FBI dig deeper. Her warning hung in the air, a plea and a challenge. Agent Thompson addressed the residents, offering hope amid the wreckage. Asset forfeiture will recover most stolen funds through property seizures and account freezes. Each household should receive about $5,800 in restitution within 6 months. We're using this case to dismantle similar operations across 3 states. Standing in the community center, watching agents collect evidence while neighbors grappled with their betrayal, I felt a familiar mix of satisfaction and sorrow. Justice was being served, but families were shattered. Ellen's choices would ripple through Lakeview Shores for years. 3 weeks later, the investigation's scope stunned even me. Tony Russo's plea deal revealed a money laundering network infiltrating 12 Florida HOAs, stealing $4.7 million over 5 years. The operation targeted middle-class communities where residents paid high fees but rarely scrutinized expenses, creating a perfect environment for theft disguised as legitimate costs. A chilling discovery tied the conspiracy to a murder. Henry Walsh, the former HOA treasurer, had died in a supposed rain-slick car crash. But forensic analysis of his Toyota Camry revealed cut brake lines. Henry was murdered, Agent Thompson told me. He found early evidence of the scheme and hid it in a safety deposit box. The box contained suspicious transfer records, photos of Ellen with Russo's lieutenants, and recordings of talks about eliminating the treasurer. Henry's death was a warning to anyone digging into HOA finances, and it hit me hard. I'd served with him on USS Valor 15 years earlier, a connection I hadn't known until Margaret Olson found a photo of us at a Navy ceremony. "Maybe you were meant to finish what he started," she said. The weight of that truth settled in my bones. Lakeview Shores began to heal with a transparent election. Margaret Olson was unanimously elected HOA president, her teacher's fairness guiding the board. Robert Chong, with his engineer's precision, became treasurer, implementing safeguards like 3-member contract approvals and semi-annual external audits. Lisa Nguyen, a meticulous nurse, took on secretary duties, ensuring open records. New policies, resident access to financials, monthly transparency meetings rebuilt trust. The community was determined to never be betrayed again. I chose to restore PT 109, not replace her, turning her into a community memorial. Insurance and recovered HOA funds provided $68,000 for a full restoration, new engine, navigation gear, preserved Navy markings. Volunteers, from novices to seasoned boaters, logged 200 hours of labor. The dedication ceremony renamed her Lakeview Integrity, with plaques honoring Henry Walsh's courage and the community's resilience. It was a symbol of redemption, a reminder that truth rises from even the deepest waters. Ellen's sentencing hearing was a moment of complex justice. Facing money laundering, embezzlement, and accessory to murder, she received 12 years in federal prison, reduced from a life sentence due to her cooperation and coercion by Russo. The judge acknowledged her impossible position. Mrs. Harper caused great harm, but she acted under credible threats to her family and helped dismantle a criminal network. As she was sentenced, I thought of Lily, a 16-year-old losing her mother to a prison cell, and Henry Walsh, a good man, killed for doing right. Justice felt bittersweet. Tony Russo's life sentence brought clearer closure. His attempts to intimidate witnesses from custody only added charges, confirming his danger. His network's collapse led to 15 arrests in Georgia and Alabama, with $12 million in stolen funds recovered for 3,000 families. Lakeview Shores was just one battle in a larger war, but it was a victory that mattered. As I stood on the restored PT 109, watching dolphins play in the lake, I felt the weight of what we'd achieved and what it had cost. The sun dipped low over Lakeview Shores, casting a golden glow across the lake where PT 109, now christened Lakeview Integrity, bobbed gently at its dock. 3 years after Ellen Harper's arrest, our community had transformed from a battleground of betrayal into a national model for HOA transparency. The scars of Ellen's actions and Tony Russo's criminal empire lingered, but they fueled a resilience that drew attention from housing organizations across the country. My retirement, once envisioned as quiet days fishing from my Navy patrol boat, had become a mission to protect communities like ours from the predators hiding behind bylaws and boardrooms. This is the story of how Lakeview Shores rose from the ashes, how its people found redemption, and how I learned that sometimes the greatest battles are the ones you never see coming. 6 months after Ellen's sentencing, her daughter, Lily Harper, now 17, visited me at the Lakeview Integrity dock. She carried herself with a poise that belied the trauma she'd endured, her eyes steady as she spoke. "Mr. Bennett, I want to thank you," she said, handing me a letter. "You didn't just expose Russo, you saved my mom from herself." Lily had earned an engineering scholarship, partly funded by community donations, and was preparing to study infrastructure design at the University of Florida. Her goal, to create transparent financial systems for community organizations, ensuring no HOA could be weaponized again. "Mom was drowning in fear and secrets," she said. "Prison's giving her a chance to heal, to be someone better." The letter, written on federal prison stationery, was from Ellen. "Dear Jack," it began, "words can't undo the pain I caused you, Henry Walsh's family, or our community. You lost a piece of your heart when PT 109 sank, but your investigation saved Lily's future and exposed a truth that needed telling, no matter the cost to me. Ellen described her transformation in prison, earning her GED, training as a paralegal, and teaching financial literacy to inmates. "I've learned real courage," she wrote, "the kind you showed, protecting others even when it hurts. Lily's studying engineering because she wants to serve with the integrity you demonstrated." The letter ended with hope. "I can never repay you, but every woman I help honors the trust Lakeview Shores lost." Ellen's rehabilitation exceeded expectations. Through therapy, she addressed her gambling addiction and the trauma of Russo's coercion. She worked with prosecutors to identify other HOAs targeted by organized crime, her insights helping recover millions more. "I can't erase my crimes," she wrote in another letter, "but I can stop other families from suffering what we did." Her journey from desperate housewife to advocate was a testament to redemption, though it didn't erase the harm she'd caused. For every resident who saw her as a victim, another saw a traitor. The debate over her punishment too harsh or too lenient still simmered in Lakeview Shores, a reminder that justice is rarely black and white. Lily's graduation from the University of Florida, summa cum laude, was a beacon of hope. As class valedictorian, she spoke of learning integrity from a community that chose compassion over vengeance. "The greatest teachers," she said, "show mercy when they could choose revenge, justice over punishment, healing through accountability." Her thesis, a digital financial management system for HOAs, incorporated safeguards to prevent fraud like her mother's. It was already being piloted in communities across Florida, a legacy born from pain but built on purpose. Lily's success sparked pride in Lakeview Shores, but it also fueled debates. Should the daughter of a criminal be celebrated, or did her achievements absolve her too much? Tony Russo's empire continued to crumble. Federal investigations, sparked by our case, uncovered similar schemes in Alabama and Georgia, recovering $15 million for 3,000 families. Russo's attempts to run his network from a maximum security prison only piled on charges, ensuring he'd never see freedom. Each conviction felt like a tribute to Henry Walsh, the treasurer, murdered for asking the right questions. His safety deposit box, filled with evidence, had been the spark. My investigation was the blaze. Margaret Olson's discovery of our Navy photo tied us together across time, a reminder that some battles choose you. My consulting firm, Integrity Solutions, grew from Lakeview Shores tragedy into a force for change. Specializing in HOA audits, fraud detection, and board training, we offered free services to communities suspecting corruption while charging fees to well-run associations. In 3 years, we audited 47 HOAs, uncovered $3.2 million in fraud, secured 12 convictions, and trained 500 board members across 7 states. Our model exposing crime, while teaching prevention, proved sustainable and rewarding. Every case reminded me why I'd fought: to protect families who trusted their leaders, only to be betrayed. A personal joy I hadn't expected came from Dr. Emily Larson, a community counselor who helped Lakeview Shores heal. Our collaboration on trauma recovery turned into love, built on shared values of service and integrity. Emily's expertise complemented my investigative skills, creating a unique approach to community consulting that addressed both financial crimes and their emotional toll. Our evening talks on Lakeview Integrity's deck, watching dolphins dance in the sunset, grounded me. We debated justice versus revenge, trust versus skepticism, and how communities rebuild after betrayal. Her presence made the fight worthwhile, a reminder that even in war, there's room for peace. Lakeview Shores' transformation drew national attention. Community Living Magazine, Better Homes and Gardens, and a 60-minute segment showcased our innovations. Monthly transparency meetings, semi-annual audits, board member background checks, and open financial records. Hundreds of HOAs adopted our model, creating a culture of accountability that made corruption harder to hide. The annual Lakeview Shores Community Day became a pilgrimage for housing advocates, with Lakeview Integrity offering tours blending naval history with lessons on fraud prevention. Henry Walsh Memorial Scholarships supported students pursuing public service, while community gardens replaced fake contractor projects, turning deceit into growth. 3 months ago, a call from a Jacksonville HOA president proved our work was far from done. "We found your card in our late treasurer's desk," she said. with photos of you and Henry Walsh from a Navy ceremony. We're seeing financial irregularities like Lakeview Shores. The case uncovered another Russo associate running an identical scheme, a stark reminder that our victory was one battle in a larger war against organized crime infiltrating suburban America. Each new case fueled my resolve, but it also raised questions. How many communities were still bleeding, unaware of the predators in their boardrooms? As I reflect on Lakeview Shores, I'm often asked if I regret moving here, if I wish I'd chosen a quieter retirement free of HOA drama and federal investigations. The answer is always no. This community taught me what the Navy couldn't: courage that shields neighbors, honor that demands accountability, and justice that heals rather than destroys. When PT 109 sank, it became the anchor that pulled Lakeview Shores back to the surface, stronger and united. Ellen's desperation, Lily's redemption, Henry's sacrifice, and our collective fight showed me that truth always rises, even from the deepest lake. To those reading, I urge you to act if you suspect corruption in your community. Document every thinjamails, receipts, violations. Find allies among neighbors. Never abandon the principle that integrity matters. One person with evidence can protect hundreds of families, just as we did. Lakeview Shores isn't unique. It's a warning. The predators are out there, hiding behind smiles and bylaws. But so are the fighters, ready to stand for what's right. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, especially on the themes of violence and injustice that wove through this story. Was Ellen a villain, a victim, or both? Should her punishment have been harsher, or was redemption enough? How do you balance justice with mercy when trust is shattered? Share your stance, your stories, and let's spark a conversation about protecting our communities from those who'd exploit them. Your voice matters, use it.